Peace, family. So I'm back with another one. Today what I want to do is I wanted to talk to my chosen ones about how you will not be able to hang out with people that you used to hang out with. You will not be able to vibe in them same energies and frequencies that you used to mingle in. And once you start growing in this space, which a lot of us have been already, you start to understand that the two frequencies do not mesh. So even when you turn your station to whatever the station that they're on, frequency-wise, it's like you driving on one of them back roads. It's like you can pick up signals sometimes, and then that shit goes right out again. You pick it up again for a little bit, then it goes right back out on you again. And a lot of this just has to do with, like, we fighting a spiritual battle. So when you are trying to mingle in those old spaces that you used to mingle in, and first off, let me just say, like, I know a lot of us bounce back around and forth in those old spaces solely due on the fact that that's familiar energy, and sometimes we just want to be around people. And out here you got to take risks. Understood. But you just have to be aware, like, when you dance around or you jumping back into those old vibrations and frequencies, that you have to set a time limit, a stamp, a stopwatch. You know, you got to put something in place, because like I was saying before, driving on them back roads, your frequency is going to start to go away because you don't vibe on that same frequency anymore. So whether you want to call it down or up or left to right, you know what I mean? You just have to understand that those frequencies don't mesh. So it's always going to create some kind of friction in between there. So you could just be mingling and just trying to vibe regular, but then you have the old you in the inside, which starts pulling. And it always gives them subtle signs by how you start communicating out when you back in that frequency again. You know what I mean? And how you choose to lead in certain conversations and topics and things of that nature. So, like, that's a battle in itself. You trying not to transition back to your old frequency and vibration that you used to kind of be in. You know what I mean? Then you also have the influence of whatever space they are in that you choose to mingle around them in, you know, or if they just come to your space. Some people, vibrations from your old time are just so overbearing that it can dilute your personal space too. So even if you just have them over you, it'll still feel very discombobulated. So, like, I was communicating with somebody recently just about, like, they went back to an old space. They had been vibrating higher. They way more knowledgeable now than when I used to engage and communicate with them and stuff. So I know that they've been learning and doing a lot of self-awareness and self-healing and, you know, just doing all those things that we need to do to put ourselves in a better position. And wanting to be around people pulled them in a space which had them engaging in certain substances that they told themselves they was going to stay away from. So it's like a double battle once you go into those spaces again, because now you fighting either old habits, traits, or things that you used to do or indulge in. Then you also have those substances or things around, or they just available ready. They don't even have to be out. They could just be accessible. You know what I mean? And then you have the influence of the environment and that energy. So it's always a compilation of things. So that's why when I was communicating with that being, I was telling them, like, if you dance around in that old energy, you have to establish the environment, and you also have to have a time limit. So instead of that being going over to those spaces, which was old familiar spaces, I had just threw some ideas out, just, you know what I mean, just kind of like, you can have them go to a different location. Make it a public location or something. You know what I mean? Something where maybe you don't. If they drinkers, take them somewhere where is no drinks at, like a cafe or something. You know what I mean? Like if they smokers, you know, most people ain't smoking indoors in public, so take them to a location. You know what I'm saying? You can do things and maneuver things around a little bit different to kind of be able to mingle in old energy and still be able to control the vibration and frequency, because we don't want that low vibration or that demonic frequency having predominant control over the environment. You know what I mean? Especially if we are in those spaces and occupying those spaces. So that kind of had brought me up to this subject today, because I felt their energy and they was kind of like really hard on themselves afterwards. And you know, it always take a couple days or a week or two to recover when you slip down some old habits or just dealing with some energy you said you was never going to deal with again, and you put yourself back in that space again. So a lot of it has to do with us just not being around a lot of beings in general, because we want to be around people. You know what I mean? Like, that's just our biological, our biochemical makeup. Like, it's for us to engage and to be around people like ants. So it's a plane on the way. We're gonna let this rock out first. But our genetics kind of force us to do certain things naturally. You know, that's why they say, like, one of your biggest battles is with your flesh. You know, your body, this piece of meat right here in itself, not even involving the outside beings. You know what I mean? So once you understand, like, all of these things that you have to set in place in order for you to, like, engage in a certain environments, it'll help you be able to move around so much easier and smoother. Like, a lot of us went and got to these spaces if we didn't know how to operate in those dark spaces. You know what I mean? Whether it was willingly or forcefully. You know what I mean? So, and you have to be in those spaces to really even comprehend, to know. You know what I mean? But I don't like to, like, go back to those spaces and be around those beings and then allow that frequency to control my frequency. So if I do go into those spaces because I don't want them in my space and we didn't meet at a public location, then I have to make sure that my timer is longer than it would be if we was out in a public place. You know what I mean? So say I spun over to their house, I would give them maybe 20 minutes at the max. You know what I'm saying? So, but if I met them out in public, I would probably give them from like anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, hour and a half, you know? So I could do a little bit more time in that vibration. So we set up to where we don't have to sit in those spaces. Most of us are, you know what I mean? So, and we understand that spiritually, because even if you sharing houses or like living spaces, we still have methods to close our doors and to block that energy, to allow the creator to take charge, and for us to not be putting as much concern on things that's out of our control. You know what I mean? Once you in your room and you close your door, you know, you cannot control what the people outside of your door is doing. You only can focus on how you manage your energy. You know, we have to work on our responses to the universe, because you ain't always going to be able to plan and line everything up. A lot of things you just going to have to flow like this water. You know what I mean? So just understanding, like, it's not going to be easy to dance around in those old vibrations. Like, and a lot of people don't really be ready for it. And they still try to dance back around into those spaces, and they find themselves, you know, doing a bunch of backflips, and now they sprinting, trying to run and catch back up to where they was at, so that way they can get moving to make progress again. So just be aware of, like, these couple of things that you can do if you do have to mingle around these energies. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you may want to go mingle with your moms or your parents or siblings that you don't really deal with like that, but you don't have to go to their space to do it. You know what I mean? So, and that just depends on I'm just speaking as far as, like, the people who dance around. Like, a lot of us is cool. Like, we cool in the spaces we in. If that energy comes, around this way, then, you know, we already know how we gonna line up and deal and operate with that energy when it's time. You know what I'm saying? But for the ones that are still in that transition from leaving that space to like get into like the next few levels, and I say next few levels because a couple levels after you get out of that space, like of just now you're aware what's going on, you got like a few levels to go through before you get to that space to where you actually comfortable and can manage yourself being in those vibrations and in that energy. You know what I mean? So just be mindful of these things. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna step back into that space, you have to be in tune with what's being said. You have to be in tune with the environment. Even if it seems like a peaceful environment, you already know the chaos that comes with that energy. You already know the chaos that comes with that playbook. It's still the same playbook. That's why the conversations is usually still the same, and you have to shift the conversations around a little bit to kind of get new information, new insight, you know what I'm saying? Just things that's not the regular that y'all normally communicate about. But I ain't want to run it up too long. Tapping everything down below. Peace and love to the kings and queens.